dreamt that he was dancing again. I dreamt that he was smiling again. And I dreamt I was alive to see it. I think it was that last time in Montevideo. I think it was Chopin. To something I'd never seen before, something of his own, something serene. Perhaps it was his way of showing me this dance I'd never seen. Perhaps it was his way of forgiving me, of letting me forgive him. I've never been to South America, you know. I've often wondered how different things might have been if I'd gone with him that first time. But the soothsayer had told me I would die on water, so I stayed in Europe. No sooner had they crossed the gangplank than the pressure of my great arms fell from round his body, and his arms were free to circle her. Of course, it was all her idea. She wasn't even a member of the company. A rich mistress said she wanted dancing lessons from Cicchetti. He, of course, never could resist that kind of prettiness. There she was, my dear. A fan, an acolyte, a pretty bauble, like all the other pretty baubles that hung about the valley roofs to make it seem like Christmas wherever we went. The second season was as successful, equally as successful. With Scheherazade finally spilling the full range, or rather the full weight of Bach's opulent palette onto a stage that could hardly bear its burden. Storm clouds of green draperies that had other intrusions of pink, blue, black. Gold lanterns hung like opalescent fruit from the ceiling. In back a fast purple and blue twilight. On the floor, hot pink carpet loaded with formless and inviting pillows and cushions. Against this background, the actors, dancers, mimes performed in costumes as brilliant as the set itself. Baxed in his costume sketches, you know, he showed a lot of bare breasts and bare bums, and pubic hair even. We couldn't show this, of course, but we showed what we could. And what we couldn't show burned itself into the imagination of the spectators. What an avalanche of heady notions presented themselves that evening when the Sultan returns and finds that his wives have been disporting themselves with a bunch of male slaves. Shh! The carnage that followed has so many well-dressed torsos in the auditorium squirming with ecstasy. I was sure the dry cleaners of Paris would make their fortune the following day. For that third year, 1911, I want to show to Paris a Russian ballet with a Russian theme and Russian music. So I approach the senior composer at this time. His name was Lyadov. Hey, Lyadov, I said, how would you like to write us a ballet? Oh, sure, he said. A couple of weeks later, I met him on the street. Hey, Lyadov, I said, how are you getting on with our ballet? Oh, fine, he said, I bought the manuscript paper. When I realized he wasn't going to deliver the goods, I approached a young composer whose work I'd heard at a modest concert. No support from my circle. They thought he was untalented, but I knew. I asked him to come to see me. I kept him waiting another long time. Who knows the origin of that little voice that says, wait a little longer. This plump opinionated pansy may have something up his sleeve for you. He waited. He wrote. Ballet was Firebird. Composer, Igor Stravinsky. Genius, I think. Real one. 1928, we took Nijinsky, shaved and dressed by Sergei Diaghilev to see a performance of Petrushka, the Paris Opera. I must tell you, my dears, that at this time this greatest of all male dancers found it difficult to walk. We took him backstage after the first ballet, before Petrushka was to begin. The crowd of old comrades pressed forwards to greet him, but fell back at the sight of his unoccupied face. But Kosavina, the rest then made up to play the ballerina, kissed him and called him by his small name, Vasha. He seemed he might have recognized it, stopped hearts. Maybe some connection was being made. some bridge across those unspeakable years of isolation and emptiness. He dropped his head. He turned away. We took his arm, we patted his shoulder, we made a few pictures. They seemed to make one last effort to recognize the companion of his greatness, and then gave up forever. No miracles today. As we supported him back to his car, he didn't seem to want to leave. Je ne veux pas. Je ne veux pas. And he went back to his wife. I like being at table. I like being on the boulevards. I like my life. At first, I have to admit that finally it bored me. There was a time when I was simply an aging figurehead, stuck on the proudest ship, badly in need of a paying job, almost in need of redefinition. I took my pleasures quite simply then. Old books I'd always loved, and young people always had power to stir me. My last protege was 16 years old. My God! The older I got, the younger they became. Thank God I died when I did. He wasn't exactly handsome, but he was youth incarnate. He couldn't love me as I wanted to be loved, so he did something much worse. He loved me platonically at a very close range. We sat across that unbridgeable chasm from each other till the very end, tossing gifts of admiration and affection into each other's laps. In a life notable for the quality of its bad jokes, that was perhaps the best. Just before I died, I went on a spree. Cakes, ale, opera, art, all across Europe, strictly against doctor's orders. I crawled back to Venice after this flashing, defiant interlude, and sent Cockno 3 telegrams on the same day. The first telegram said, "Here we are again in Venice." Second one said, "I don't remember what it said." Third one said, "Very sick, come quick." I didn't last long after this. I didn't plague anyone with famous last words. I didn't contrive my own epitaph. Sergei Diaghilev did this for me. Venice, inspiratrice eternelle de nos apaisements. Approximately Venice, eternal calming agent. I'd have preferred Diaghilev, inspirateur éternel de nos inquiétudes. Diaghilev, always keeping us on our toes. My death agonies lasted 5 hours. My last 2 visitors were Miss Jesser and Coco Chanel, dressed in white, like 2 very chic angels. Little premature, I thought.